So, as we've sort of discussed, I had a healthy cynicism about a lot of the prescribed and accepted narrative about what health foods are these days. I have not really ever bought into that or believed it. I knew, though, that I needed to do something about my diet. Had high blood pressure. Um, Also, although I was training a lot, I wasn't getting the results I wanted, and I was increasingly finding I was having little niggles.
Mm.
And so it was about, I think, sort of realizing that it was time I needed to maybe approach a professional, an expert, more on the nutritional side than the training side. I can train myself. I've got a fair amount of experience there, but it was actually the fueling of the body to be able to maximize what I could then get out of training.
Yeah.
So I think that's what really was the epiphany, if you like.
Yeah, nice.
So prior to speaking with yourself, as I mentioned previously, I think a lot of it was to do with the fact that everything that I seemed to like or do I was being told either via various media outlets or in the newspapers, that's bad, meat's bad, dairy's bad, everything's bad for you. And you sort of get to this point where you think, I don't think I'm that unhealthy. I know I need to do something. But so to be able to work with yourself, who was able to say, actually, a lot of this stuff is nonsense, and actually to get the right results, we need to put a plan in that looks something like this, was quite refreshing, actually, and certainly, motivating as well, because suddenly you're thinking, well, I was on the right lines, and I'm not.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm not completely, sort of foolish in this. These are good, wholesome foods, and I enjoy them, and I can still eat them and get the right results. But it's just about tailoring that. So certainly the trigger was the high blood pressure reading. I have periodically had high blood pressure readings throughout my life on occasion, so I guess I'm perhaps slightly prone to it, but I've always then been able to manage that through more exercise. As I'm getting older and the metabolism was starting to slow down, that was a concern. Suddenly I'm thinking, we know high blood pressure is a direct contributor to strokes. I'm starting to sadly move into that age bracket where that could be a realistic prospect. So wanted to sort of wrestle control of that again myself without needing to be on permanent medication. I
definitely, I'm completely with that.
Yeah, I medication can be great in acute circumstances, but ultimately the idea of being on medication for everything for the rest of my life is not something that I think is a wise or healthy approach. So that was definitely the key. But I was also finding myself that as my weight had increased, the exercise that I was then doing, I was struggling to do more. I was picking up more sort of little niggling injuries, aches and pains. And it was sort of an ever decreasing circle, really. Because of that, I then couldn't train as hard, which then meant I put on more weight and so on and so forth. So it just went round in a vicious circle. So they were the main issues that sort of awoke me to needing to take a little bit more action, I think. So yes, absolutely. My motivation now is to just continue this trend. When we started out, I was very specific with yourself in our conversations that this couldn't be a crash course. It needed to be a lifestyle adjustment, and that was important, I think, for us both in terms of the success rate and putting me on a track where this is something that I can perpetuate indefinitely. So my motivation is very much to maintain that. On our first reading, my visceral fat reading was of a huge concern. Whilst it wasn't exceedingly high, it was above the recommended. the results today, you know, at the end of the course have shown that I'm now back within the green zone, which is brilliant, but I'm still towards the top of it. So I want to continue that trend down. Metabolic age, another huge thing, you know, that was quite shocking to see that, particularly as somebody that considered myself to be reasonably fit. And that wasn't just, you know, my own sort of whimsical ideas about being fit. Objectively, compared to a lot of people of similar age to me, I seem to be physically quite fit. So to then see that the metabolic age was as high as it was compared to my physical age was quite shocking. So obviously, as you know, we've brought that down quite considerably, but still not quite to where my physical age is. So we need to work. Yeah, we need to work on that. And I think just going back to my approach to fitness throughout all my life, you know, through my teens, 20s, 30s, you always just want to be bigger, stronger, faster, fitter. So there's always going to be that motivation there. So
Yeah, well, that's
yeah, no, it's fine. Working with Chris has been really good, but that is just, you know, that sounds like a glib answer. The reality is that there are a lot of people working in the field of physical fitness training and physical health coaching who actually, in my opinion, aren't very professional, aren't very thorough, and they've done a course or they've read a few books and they just parrot what's there. The advantage with Chris was that, you know, I've alluded in some of this interview that we sat down at the beginning, we discussed things, we worked out what my lifestyle was like, what might work, what didn't, what wouldn't work. And Chris tailored a plan to that. But it wasn't just a one-stop fix. We've sort of amended that as we've gone through, and Chris has been there as sort of a support and a mentor, because there will be times when the results don't seem to be happening as quickly as you want them to. And that, of course, is inevitably frustrating and can be demoralizing. So I think that was a very important part of what Chris has done in terms of supporting me in that area and just giving you a bit of positive motivation to push on through. But, you know, I can certainly say he's extremely professional. His dietary plans are very knowledgeable. But as I said, they're very much tailored to the individual, which is important if you want to actually make a lifestyle change rather than just enter onto a crash course that will lose you weight, which then as soon as it's finished, you pile all that weight back on again. So yeah, that's what I'd say.